Hi, welcome back to Far From Eden. You know, you see things like the Whatever podcast, Fresh and Fit, and all those things, sometimes even street interviews or most of the street interviews. And you see, I would say, a certain type of woman being interviewed most of the time. And you could sum these women up as city girls. I've often talked about, women who are raised on a farm, etc., are a little bit different. Now, that doesn't mean they're safe, because as long as the government is, holding family court and all of those things over men's heads and saying, look, if you mess up, if she's not happy for whatever reason she wants to just pull the plug, then you lose your kids, you lose your money, you lose your house, you lose everything, maybe your reputation, which she accuses you of abuse. It's not safe. But I like to study these women and see where we are. And I came across a channel here on YouTube that, well, I couldn't believe it, because these were a different type of woman. I wanted to know what they had to say. And after I finished watching the video, I was like, I want to show you guys what they had to say, because it's not the typical answer you get on the Whatever podcast. It's the same demographic, age-wise, etc. And I'm going to show you in some of these scenarios where they are absolutely huge red flags that a lot of men wouldn't see, especially the men that run in those same circles. And I'm like, this is one of the dangerous ones. I'd also say these are probably church-going girls. And I've said many times before that those women, so many times, a church can be a hiding place for 304s. And why are they hiding there? Because that's the greatest place to find unsuspecting men, or men that would buy into the whole born again virgin routine, where I'm all for being born again. I'm all for, turning your life around. However, you can't get away from the consequences of your actions. And sometimes, many times, those consequences are internal, right? It's stuff that cannot be undone. So, speaking of which, this whole 101 men thing by the girl named Lily Phillips, I know is, people are freaking out, and rightly so, about that. And I will be bringing to you a video on it tomorrow, because I just think there's a whole side of this that is not being talked about, that we will attack tomorrow. But it's, this is the mindset of so many young women. We know that even young women voted Trump. So that would make you think that many, many young women are conservative, so to speak. But what does that mean? And how can you see right through it? Because I also know there are a lot of you that are like, I still want to find a woman. I'm going to find a good one. Which I say, don't do it. But maybe we can at least try to, I don't know, minimize your risks somewhat if you're just hell-bent on doing this. But anyway, let's get into it. Let's see what these chicks have to say. I can't wait for you guys. I can't wait, because there's going to be a lot of you that have never even talked to this type before. And it's a very, a lot of these are horse girls too. So that's a whole different reason to avoid them. And I should know, because I was one for a very long time, being a horse trainer, riding instructor, and everything. But luckily for me, the multiple sclerosis held me back from being fully immersed and being fully crazy, I guess. Anyway. Oh my. All right, let's make sure the volume's on.
Do you think a man is less of a man if he can't change a flat tire?
I do think so. Me and my roommates talk about it all the time, and that's one of the qualities we look for in a man, just to know that we can be safe and protected with them.
Is a woman less of a woman if she can't cook a meal from scratch?
No.
You're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see them caught in their own double standards, which is glorious for me. I like it when they're proven wrong right from the get-go, right from their worldview. Their worldview is wrong. These women have been lied to and taught all of these things. Now, what will they do when new information crosses their path? Because I think if you've seen the Whatever podcast, you know what happens when new information crosses their path. They double down. And it's like you're wrong, so I'm going to be more wrong. Anyway, this whole video is entitled, "What is a Man?" It's not just that. That's not the only question. In fact, it's only a small portion of it. They talk about masculinity and all of that, and further things like the beginning here that you just saw. It's Complicated is the channel name, and I'm going to provide a link to this video so that you guys can hit like on their video and check out the rest of these street interviews he has. I can't believe I didn't find this channel sooner. I'm not gonna lie, I binge watched quite a bit. It's fascinating. He does it in Las Vegas, so you're gonna see similar type of things as you're used to, because it's going to be a lot of city girls and such. But we know that a lot of people do go to Vegas. But again, it's a certain type. There's, a truly conservative woman is not going to be in Vegas. So why do I find these women interesting? Because this is the national finals rodeo. So these women did not come here necessarily to go to Vegas. They came here to go to the biggest rodeo in North America. As far as I know, it's the biggest one. And so you're gonna get a different type of people. You just are. So it's always interesting when we can study humans together, especially the female sort.
Why is there a difference?
Because I don't know how to cook a meal from scratch. So
What if a man doesn't know how to change a tire?
well, I guess it's okay, but if a man wants a woman who can cook, then they shouldn't date me.
What is a woman?
What is a woman?
Nose piercings, immediate veto, red flag, etc. When I see the nose piercings, I think to myself, okay, this is somebody maybe hunting cowboys. I'm not making a judgment about this particular woman. I'm not trying to slander her, but I'm just saying, or maybe she's a barrel racer. That's a type of horse girl that you should definitely avoid.
I think it's someone that is born female.
Someone who was born with female parts. To me, a woman is somebody that is beautiful inside and out, empowered, and inspires positive change in the world around her.
If a woman is an adult human female, why wouldn't an adult human male be the definition of a man?
Who says it's not a definition of a man?
That is the definition of a man, right?
He's so good. I don't know if he was an attorney in a past life, but he's so good because these women don't see it coming. See, now this one, I don't see any, facial tattoos. Probably more likely a horse girl there because, there's good shopping. Probably not a city girl. You can tell by accents also. But it's interesting. So they're getting set up because, well, if it's the definition of a man, then why do you have all these other requirements?
Right? Like,
what is the difference between a male and a man?
A male is someone who was born with male parts. Male is male is male is male. But to me, a man is somebody that is a protector, a provider, and makes you want to be that feminine woman for them.
No. Makes you want to be? Right there. Any woman who, how strong, or didn't she say that a woman is strong and inspires change in the world or whatever? How are you doing that if the man makes you want to be feminine? It's all based on him. This is the type of woman who is going to be like, you haven't done this, therefore I'm going to react this way. You said this, that, or the other, therefore I can do this. She doesn't see that's what she's saying, but that's what she's saying. She's cute. She seems reasonable, right? So this is the type of woman that could easily fool somebody. And they do, because you don't see that she is making her feelings and her actions or reactions solely based on what he does. And however she feels about what he does depends on her mood, depends on her phase of life, all the rest of it, all things that he's just supposed to know. And I mean, how many times have I heard men say, they're not mind readers? And she's just flying off the handle angry. And, this has been something that she's been angry about for a while, but she hasn't communicated that to him. He's just supposed to know. I'm going to point this stuff out. Oh, this one's thinking hard. That was a harsh pause.
A man is really someone who's like a developed masculine man who is like born and like developed and grown in society like as a man.
What? I'll say it again. I'm sorry. I say it in every video, but these women don't know how to choose. They don't know how to choose. It's why they're ignoring so many good men and choosing so many, for lack of a better term, losers and felons. Because if this is yeah.
Well, why are there more burdens placed on a man to begin with?
Because that's how God designed us.
I come from a religious standpoint on it, so I think that girls are more emotional, right? So our role is to nurture and be there, while men are supposed to be the providers and work.
I think that depends on who you talk to, because you could say that there's burdens placed on women also.
Women are supposed to work too, just ideally not outside the home. I understand that in this day and age, thank you, Rockefeller and the like, they want to double the taxes and to break up the nuclear family. So it's created a situation where it's more of a need. And it's certainly more of a need in our minds because of our idea of what the necessities are. And primarily women, because men are can be happy with far less. In fact, many of them understand that when you have less, there is less to worry about. But if you're the women who are married to these providers, even if you do bring in an income, but you're not the primary breadwinner, you don't have the pressure of that mortgage. You don't have the pressure of all of that the way the man does. So maybe you enjoy the big house, whereas it's a big source of stress for him, and it's unnecessary. We don't all need our own rooms to go off to, and then like a bonus room and a this room and a that room. It's like we're families. We're supposed to be together a lot of the time.
What does masculinity look like if you're not religious, traditional, or conservative?
I feel that like if you're chivalrous, if you are a problem solver. For me as a woman, sometimes if I get overwhelmed, I just want my man to take over and be like, oh, thank God you helped me. Or if
Is he supposed to know when that is? Do you let him know? Maybe she does. But you guys know a lot of the time, no. A lot of these women are snakes in the grass because they're pretty and they seem more feminine. They seem more wholesome. They seem more reasonable. They really do. And maybe they are more than, say, the ones on the whatever podcast or ones like that, or just your average, chick that's in college or just graduated. But don't be fooled. Okay? They are different, but it's not enough. It's not enough.
I feel like a man is someone that can help me figure out problems or help me through my day if, I'm ever feeling that I get stuck. So just someone that can help me a little bit.
That's a lot of feelings he has to, manage. And this is where you get into trouble, because do you want him to be your bestie and talk to you like your girl best friend would, or your mom or your sister, or do you want him to be the problem solver? Because she's saying two things at once, right? She's saying I want him to be the problem solver, but I want him to help me with my feelings. You guys already know the trap I'm talking about, where the woman says something to the man about a problem, right? An issue she's having. And he goes to give her ideas for solutions. And she starts getting angry because she didn't want solutions. She just wanted someone to listen, someone to understand. Maybe another time, he's like, okay, I heard her. I'm going to be more understanding. I'm just going to listen. And then that's when she wanted a problem solver. So then he strikes out then too. Again, he's not a mind reader. He is a man. And his role is to be a man, not to be your mother, your sister, your best friend, where he's going to sit there and validate every feeling you have and agree with everything you say. Men are more, they're better at being problem solvers. They're problem solvers naturally. So he's probably thinking to himself, she's already got all the emotions. Maybe she needs some solutions. I want to help. They don't do the problem solving thing also to be insensitive. And a lot of the times women take it as insensitive. They do it to help. They see you in a crisis. They see you upset. They want to make it better. So they're loving you through the problem solving. Doing this emotional blah, 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 he doesn't see that as helpful a lot of the time. So if you're thinking you want a masculine man, he's going to be more of a problem solver than a cry buddy. He just is. It's just the way it is.
Why are men defined by their role while women are defined by their existence?
I think women are also defined by their role. It depends on who you ask. There's a lot of societal pressure, especially now in the day and age of social media. I myself often find comparing myself to others on social media. So I think it goes both ways. It just depends on who you ask.
Women introduce themselves to me.
He was asking her, but okay.
They'll say hi and we'll talk about it. And then it's like, oh, are you a mom? Or what do you do for your job? And so it's like, what is your role? Not just merely existing. So I think we get a lot of that too.
Do you think that men get joy and gratitude out of serving women, even if women don't reciprocate?
Oh, I think it depends on the reason that they're doing it.
A lot of men that I meet in my life, and maybe it's like a demographic thing, but I think men get satisfaction by like serving a woman and like leading a woman. And it just really depends on how they're raised though.
Isn't that the definition of a simp?
You're right. I mean, the definition of a simp is like really like serving, like bowing down to your wife. But I think like masculinity, it goes both ways. However, like it still goes both ways. Like women can still serve men as well. But I think like a masculine man is comfortable in his own skin to lead a woman.
Isn't that the definition of a simp?
Maybe, but we like simps.
Well, I don't know what a simp is.
This one is a cartoon. So this is some kind of cowgirl, Barbie. I don't know what this is. But sorry, but here she is.
Would men still serve women if they knew they would never get that reciprocation?
Would they steal or should they steal?
What do you think?
Well, they should steal.
I hope so. I think so.
Do you believe it's a man's duty to respect a woman regardless of how she treats him in return?
Yes, I think that's the right thing to do.
Well, I mean, unless you're beating his ass, then probably not. But if you just drink a little too much and get a little crazy, there's no reason he should be mad at you. Because
She infuriates me, but this one is easy to tell. Like, no man's going to be fooled by this, right? No, none. The red flags are just way too obvious. So this is not really a danger because it's clear. It's the other ones that are very similar to the church girls, where it's like, oh, well, these country girls, they've got some different values. They kind of do. And we do see some of that as the video progresses. But as I'm pointing out to you guys, still very not safe because of the attitudes and the double standards. Now, are you going to be able to tough it out easier with these women? If you're like, well, gosh, I don't want to, lose my children or whatever, so I guess I'll have to do the happy wife, happy life. It'd be easier to do the happy wife, happy life thing with them, but you don't want to do that. I don't think it's worth it.
they're just having fun. And he needs to get a better personality.
Would men still serve women if they knew they would never get that reciprocation?
No.
Do you believe it's a man's duty to respect a woman regardless of how she treats him in return?
No.
No, I wouldn't do that based on gender. I think that respect is earned regardless of your gender.
How can a man respect women without losing self-respect in the process?
I don't think you lose respect by respecting women. I think a man that respects a woman is more respectable.
What is the difference between a show horse and a plow horse?
Well, a show horse is like me.
Show horse can be a performance horse. Plow horse is like a working ranch farm horse.
Why does being physically stronger assign men the role of a plow horse while women are show horses on display?
Women are supposed to be praised and beautiful, and men are supposed to bring home the money.
A show horse is designed to be beautiful and pretty. A plow horse is a stockier build. That's where you're going to run into your drafts. They're comfortable, they're fun, they're cool little gentle giants, but at the end of the day, their job is to pull and push heavy objects. So they're going to have a bigger frame.
Why does being physically stronger assign men the role of a plow horse while women are show horses on display?
I don't think that women are show horses on display. I do like the idea of a man being a plow horse. I think that's.
See that? Look at that. It's funny to her. Is that funny that he's a plow horse just there to work? I can tell you. And she's a horsewoman. She knows the difference. And here's why I'm going to point this out. Plow horses, work horses, are not pampered and treated as well as the show horses are. Show horses can have chiropractors, acupuncturists, nutritionists, massage therapists, get all these different treatments. I am not kidding you. It's crazy. And she knows enough about horses to say, I like the idea of a man being a plow horse. It's not funny, honey. I don't know if you're just joking because you don't actually think that's true, but it's offensive because I also know the difference. Now, show horses, yeah, they get everything, and it definitely less is required. I love that the interviewer came up with this question for these women because it's right in their realm. This one didn't even see it coming. She didn't even know where he was taking it. She thought it was a question about horses.
It's quite funny. But women can be strong too. As a matter of fact, I lift 3 days a week at least, and it comes in handy working on a ranch. You have to be able to do things yourself as well. And I don't think it makes a man a workhorse, but I've seen some pretty guys too. So men can be show horses too, I suppose.
Yeah, but would you pick one of those is the thing. Would you find one of those attractive, ma'am? Probably not. Probably not. And it's okay. It's okay, you guys. She lifts, so she doesn't get it at all. However, of a lot of these women, I know she's still not safe. This is what I'm saying. Even the safe ones aren't safe. This one is more reasonable. You could have a conversation with her, etc. You can reason with her. She understands that everybody has different roles. Has worked on a ranch before, so she understands that that everybody has to pull their own weight, etc. But even then, still not safe.
Does society shame men more for being strong and masculine, or does it shame men more for being weak?
It shames men more for being weak.
Definitely weak.
Weak.
Why do you feel that way?
I think we prefer stronger men. I don't know.
Why do people think that if you're not this macho alpha male, that means you want to put on a dress and wear makeup?
I personally don't think that. I think other people might think that because there's this air of like toughness that represents toughness, and that you somehow have to be more resilient that way.
Society really, really pushes men to be extremely macho. And that's not necessarily, it can also be like in a toxic way. Some of the ones
Society pushes men to be macho. You guys know that's not true. And is anybody use macho anymore? No, society does not. Society hates masculinity. All of it. They all hate it. It's toxic. It's this, that, or the other. So I don't know. Sometimes these women are just pulling answers out to make themselves sound more reasonable than they actually are. And also to evade the questions. Because these women, I mean, they're smarter than a lot of the street interviews you see. But that can also mean that women are slipperier than, and I mean by sorry, bad choice of words. You guys, women, if they're smarter, it means they are better at manipulating and better at leading you to believe what it is you want to believe about them. And if she's pretty, men will give them the benefit of the doubt a lot more than if she's not. And unfortunately, a lot of the men around these women don't know how bad it's gotten. I think they are some of the most unred-pilled men. They just have no idea because they're just not in the circles where it's blatant and obvious. It's much more covert.
I know are very scrawny, short guys that don't look very hyper masculine. Some of them are very pretty too. Some of them aren't. But to me, they're hyper masculine in the sense that they are the provider. They care about their woman.
But they're scrawny and short. Would you describe a woman as being, how can we say this in a way that the YouTube overlords, because you can't say this about, it's one of the things you can't say about women on YouTube. That isn't that insane? So if one was, let's say, chunky, and what's another word? Not scrawny. Let's not short. What if she was chunky and homely? I doubt it. I doubt you would. But you're fine sitting there talking about a scrawny, short man.
And their wives are absolutely gorgeous. So you can still get a beautiful woman as long as you're that man.
As long as you make money. Do you hear that? Do you hear that, you guys? As long as you make money. Y'all have to perform. Women just have to exist.
Like a man should still pursue and lead and like provide for a woman emotionally, not just financially, emotionally. And that's when a man is safe and secure in his own skin. However, I don't necessarily think like society thinks that if they're not necessarily there yet, they need to put on a dress and they're like a little B word.
Can someone be masculine but not a man, or be a man but not masculine?
Depending on your definition of masculinity, yes.
So why is masculinity even applied to men in the first place?
I think gender constructs and what makes us comfortable.
Okay. She said gender constructs. That's immediate veto. We've had too much leftist education.
As a society, not that it makes it right.
I think there's different levels of how masculine a man can be, but that doesn't not make him a man.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Why is there so much confusion about what a woman is but everyone seems to know what a real man is?
Because you're asking the women about who a real man is.
Again, I think like cultural constructs of men needing to provide or needing to be in the position of provision.
When you ask a woman what she wants in a man, she's going to define that traditional role, I believe, most of the time. Do we want the show horse or do we want the plow horse? I mean, there's, of course, at least a little bit of truth in the fact that we do kind of want a show horse, too. There's nothing that breaks my heart more than seeing a beautiful woman, and I've seen it here at the NFR, beautiful woman walking around, dressed to the nines, makeup, hair done, on point. And then her man's walking around in gym clothes. So when you ask a woman what she defines as a man, you're going to get a little bit more of an accurate representation versus if you ask anybody else about what defines a woman, you're going to get a million and one questions. And
If you ask a woman, but then if you ask anybody else, wouldn't that be men? This one is very evasive, manipulative. This one, you might not see it originally. You guys might, though. You guys are so good at sniffing this stuff out now. Especially, I think for you guys, it's like once you know, you know. So you get really good at sniffing them out, telling what's behind the mask.
answers all in the same statement.
Why can a woman be whatever she wants, but a man is clearly defined?
I would argue that it also is that way for women because a lot of times it's you have to either be a mother or in the workforce, that you're not allowed to have crossover.
What constitutes a weak man versus a strong man?
I think a strong man is someone who can show up confidently as himself and answers to himself. And a weak man is someone who feels like they have to put other people down or treat people poorly to
That's a city girl trying to be in disguise. I'm sorry. No.
compensate for their own issues.
Why don't we have those same stipulations for women? Does a woman have to be a feminist or masculine to be considered strong?
No, I don't think that they do.
It could be mentally strong or physically strong. Even myself, I like to get pretty and dress up, but I also like to go rope and go weld and do masculine things. That doesn't make me more masculine than other girls, or even when I get dressed up more feminine than other girls. That's just who I am. And I think people need to be true to who they are and stick to it. And just, like I said, treat people the way you'd want to be treated.
Why don't women shame each other for being weak the same way that men shame each other for being weak?
I think women shame each other for being weak. They just do it in a more backhanded, mean way.
I mean, I think if you just go on social media, how girls compare themselves to each other and tear each other down, I think it's pretty equal, yeah.
Why is it when we talk about women's issues, it's considered the war on women, but when we talk about men's issues, it's considered the war on masculinity?
Because I would argue maybe the men that are struggling with that war the most are having a hard time defining their own masculinity for themselves.
Nope. Sorry, wrong. She blends right in with whatever podcast, in my opinion, as far as her mindset. Okay, here we go with the official public relations answer.
Maybe it's just a social media thing, but guys are getting away from their traditional roles. Back even with my father and seeing him as growing up, he always made sure that my mom knew that if she wanted to work, she could work. If she wanted to stay at home and be a stay-at-home mom, which she was, she had that opportunity presented to her as well. Now, with the economy doing what it's doing, it's very hard to see a man that can step into that role completely and provide for not just himself and the household, but also a partner and children.
Do you see how she looked up to her grandfather, right? Because what did he do? He provided the opportunity so that grandma could do whatever she wanted. She could go work if she wanted to, or she could stay home and be with the family, as I believe is better for everyone. Use your eyeballs and look around and tell me I'm wrong. But the problem started, I'd say, that generation and back, where the women started having this choice. Choices are not better. And that's, again, one of the things we will cover on tomorrow's video when we talk about Lily Phillips and her 101 dudes in a day. Giving us more choice is not what's better for us and not what's better for society. And so the fact that grandpa was that way. That's how this chick thinks men should be. So she thinks should just be whatever she wants to do. How so? We all have responsibilities and duties in this world. Now, women have been told that we don't. We don't have responsibilities or duties. That's oppression. How dare anybody tell us what we're supposed to do or what we should do? And they don't realize that men have responsibilities and duties, and for a long time they were fulfilling those willingly. Less and less men, fewer and fewer men are doing it because they realize, well, what for? What's it all for? And they have a point. Definitely have a point.
Why don't we consider it a war on men any more than we consider it a war on femininity?
I don't know. That's a good question.
What does masculinity look like if you're not religious, conservative, or traditional?
I think it's showing up as yourself confidently and not waiting for society to tell you who to be or how to treat women or how to love yourself exactly as you were made.
What's the difference between a feminist defining a real man versus the masculinity movement defining a real man?
A feminist defining a man, I don't think either are okay.
Well, what gives either one the right to define manhood?
I don't think either have the right to define manhood.
You've been standing here doing it. What? You never once did she say, oh, as a woman, it's really not my place. This interviewer is so genius. It's just this. I don't know if you guys, I was so excited because I love it when women are shown who they are, even and sometimes they don't even realize it's happening. You know, they don't realize how the mental gymnastics that most of them are going through to answer these questions. Just the mind boggles. It's, I don't know. It's well, it's one of my hobbies to watch this unfold, to watch them try to make sense of stuff that shouldn't be making sense. And at least some of them have said, well, that's an interesting question. Well, maybe we shouldn't. Maybe they shouldn't. That's as close as you can get. I'm telling you. When you say, well, these women are better, how much, how much better? It's not a whole lot. Certainly not enough to make a horribly risky decision like signing a government contract.
Why don't we allow men to be defined in their own right?
I think men should be defining themselves. And I think even like subconsciously adhering to gender constructs or what society thinks or tells them what masculinity is, that's undoing to themselves.
When it comes to relationships, men are expected to protect and provide. If men should protect because they're physically stronger, why shouldn't the woman pay the bills? Why should the man be assigned both duties when women are capable of at least being a provider?
Well, because we have to take care of those damn kids. And then we have to wash those clothes. And then we have to cook those dinners. And then we have to wash all those dirty everything. And we're tired of it.
Okay, so I think that if you're both working, because I work and my boyfriend works, and I think that could be 50-50, and I'm okay with that. But let's say we have babies and I want to be a stay-at-home wife, then he'll take on that role and I'll nurture, I'll take care of the house, I'll make sure there's meals when he comes home from work. So I think it's a 50-50 equal effort.
If men are expected to risk their lives, why can't women risk their paychecks?
Because we don't make as much as them sometimes. And even if we do, our money is our money and their money is our money.
I know you guys know they think this. They do think this. I think, hold on to the, I mean, this is what blows your mind. It's bad enough they think this, but this woman thinks it's cute to say it. It's theft. It's theft. No, woman. How about none of it's your money? How about that? How about enjoy the roof over your head and that there's always food in the kitchen or money to buy the food and be happy? How about that? Because that's much more fair than whatever the heck she just said.
I think women are capable of doing both. And I think like in a relationship, it should be what's harmonious for your family or works best for your family and not because of what culture's dictating.
What about what God's dictating? That woman is an imposter, even in this group. Now, I like the chick on the right. I do like her. I don't know. It's just something better about her. Now, it's all relative. I don't mean this is Mother Teresa. This is the Virgin Mary. This is somebody you can trust to marry. Find one like this. I never said any of that. Don't do that. But as things go, she's a little bit better. I'm hoping that, because let me put it this way. I probably should have said this in the beginning. My generation was getting propagandized like nobody's business. And there was no YouTube, Rumble, X, anything like that for us to see anything else. It was like, you should get a career. You should do this. If you're a good girl, you'd go and you get a career. That's what we were taught. And then millennials definitely were like, get a job, get a career. Don't ever depend on a man. Never, he's going to turn around and start hitting you and he's going to, he's going to leave you and all the rest of it. And Gen Z is an interesting group because they're getting propagandized, but they're also seeing alternatives. They're seeing some red pill content now. They're being kind of shamed by things like the Whatever podcast and even my channel. Some of the behavior that they're participating in and the attitudes they're having is being shamed. And they're seeing that men don't want that. And they're starting to feel the effects of men not wanting relationships, not wanting to get married, not even some of them not wanting to date, even if they would even have a chance because they get looked over. But as the women sort of lower their standards, because they can't get the 8s, 9s, and 10s, they'll look around and a 6 doesn't want to date you either because you're a liability. So, it's all looking forward to how is the propaganda changing and how are the women making adjustments accordingly. And will the ones that are, say, in high school now and not yet run through, will they make choices that make it so they're not run through? When they go, oh, men prefer a low body count or a body count of 0. Well, heck, I want to get married to a good man. I'm not gonna run up my numbers or even have one. There's going to be more women making that choice than there was in previous years if this type of content continues to grow.
Do you believe that men are natural protectors or is that learned behavior?
I think it's natural instinct.
It's something that you're taught growing up. I feel like if, like old school values, for example, like men were always taught that you should walk on the outside of the sidewalk, you should open the door. And I feel like men that were taught that when they're younger are now better protectors than men that weren't.
I think it's learned behavior, and it's also like, what do you feel you need to be protected from or what you need to be protecting?
How can men be natural protectors if men are the very thing that women need protection from?
You don't need protection from all men, just some.
I don't know that I would personally look to a man to be protecting me. I'd want to learn to protect myself first.
But wouldn't that mean that men are more likely to be protectors than be predators?
Well, there's a lot of this world is a dark place and has become a very dark place. There's a lot of good men out there and there's a lot of good women out there, but you need protection from both.
I think it's learned behavior. A lot of the men that I've dated or run into, the ones that grow up in households without a positive male influence, whether it be the uncle, the dad, older brother, or even a neighbor or friend, when they don't have that positive male influence in their household growing up, I've seen them I call it female behavior, which is awful. But guys tend to act more like women when they're surrounded by women. And I think it's a learned behavior with those traditional roles. The guys that are often the ones that go, oh no, we're going 50-50. Or I expect you to provide for the household while also cooking and cleaning and being my partner. Those are the ones that oftentimes grow up with a single mom. And it breaks my heart that they don't have that positive male influence to look up to.
Well, why don't they? What happened to the dude? Are all the men just skipping out? Are most of the men just skipping out? I don't think so. I definitely don't think so. And I'm not going to talk about demographics on that subject. But I don't think the ones that she knows, I think it's more likely that the woman filed for divorce and was extremely difficult. And it is bad because, yeah, it's primarily women. And even like she's the one whose grandpappy was, hey, you wifey poo, you can do whatever you want. I mean, grandpappy was kind of a simp. You know, he was living the happy wife, happy life. So she's already twisted in the way she's looking at all of this, unfortunately, because that means that she gets to make all those types of decisions. And that's a huge decision about how the household is and who's in charge. So many times in the past several generations, the one actually raising the children and deciding discipline and all of that has been the woman. And so you can a lot of times get, especially in the millennials and the Gen X generations, you can get single mother outcomes and these feminized men because that's all they've been shown. It's mom's in charge. And then you go to school all day, and who's teaching you? Women. So you figure as a young guy, well, the way to go is the feminine way, you know, to err more on that, because masculinity is toxic after all. It would be toxic to say, no, I'd like you to stay at home. I don't want you to get a career. I want you to be a real mother and raise our children. That's toxic.
And lastly, if conservatives hold freedom in the highest regard, why do men have a duty attached to them in the first place?
Because I don't think they realize that it's even attached to them. I don't think it's a conscious awareness.
Do you think that things would change if they were aware of that?
Yeah. And I think if they started to look inward and were empowered culturally to look inward and to define themselves and define their own masculinity, that the world would be a better place for it.
No, it wouldn't. It's not a better place when we're just defining for ourselves what a masculine role is and what a feminine role is. It's not better. That's what's going on right now. God made women, God made men. He set it out. I used to be of that mindset too, that, oh, well, you know, you figure out what's right for you and that's fine and that'll be better. And now the more and more I think about it, I'm like, you know, actually, it affects all of us, because these children being raised by single mothers affect all of us. We know that the stats for males being raised by single mothers, for example, they're way more likely to go to prison. Well, that means criminals. Well, that affects all of us. So the breaking up of the nuclear family, which destroying masculine and feminine roles, male and female roles, breaks up the nuclear family, that affects all of us. It certainly affects those of us who had to be raised in such situations and not for the better. So I hope you enjoyed that, getting a little different sort of women answering these questions. I found it fascinating because, you know, I recognize that place, that's South Point in Las Vegas, and it's NFR. So you got answers from a lot of sort of horse girls that were raised on farms or ranches, girls that are not city girls necessarily. And you can see how you don't see the same amount of makeup. You don't see, I mean, they're dressed more modestly and they smile more, all of those things. But at the end of the day, still incredibly, incredibly risky. Unfortunately, I don't want it to be that way. I don't want it to be that way. I want it to change. I like that it's better than what I would have seen, 10 years ago if we just asked these questions, and they would have been way more, it would have been more like the pinky chick who was like thinking she was cute in her hot pink, everything, talking about your money is our money and our money is our money. Goodness gracious. Anyway, I hope y'all are having a good day. I hope you're protecting your peace, and I hope you are feeding your souls. And I love you guys. Hit like, would ya? I know Lola had jumped up on the couch, but I was too focused. Hit the like button, please, on your way out. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.